For this adorable animated heart lesson, you're going to start with just a white piece of paper, a pencil, and you'll need a Sharpie for the first part of this lesson. I'll talk more about colors as we go along. The first step for this lesson is to fill your paper with hearts. Now, if you forgot how to draw a heart, it's pretty easy. I do this by starting with the letter V, and then I just add 2 bumps on top. 1, 2, and you know those hearts don't have to be perfect. I kind of like them when they're kind of smushy and, you know, a little bit uneven. So don't think your heart has to be perfect, whatever that means. So now, once you have a heart, I want you to fill in the rest of your paper with hearts of different sizes. Big hearts, small hearts, medium hearts. It's up to you. You could also work on overlapping some of your hearts. Overlapping means it looks like one heart is behind another heart. Okay, this heart is overlapping this one. So to do overlapping, it takes a little bit of practice. I'll try and make a big overlapping heart now. Okay, basically you're just stopping your line, jumping over the one that is in front of the one you're drawing, and then reconnecting to your line. I feel like I have a lot of big hearts, so I'm gonna make some little hearts. And I feel like I kind of need one up here in the corner. I really hope you enjoyed watching the video too about Chris Uphughes, the artist who also works with hearts. I'm overlapping again. And I think I need a heart down here at the bottom. Oh, here's a blank spot. Now, if you have your own way to draw hearts, that is totally fine as well. Your goal is simply to fill your page with some hearts. The next thing you're going to want to do is make these hearts animated and adorable by drawing some faces on them. And on my website, underneath the YouTube link for this project, there are a couple of resources you can use to help you come up with different faces, or you can just think of some on your own. Now remember when you're doing this that having a variety of different faces with silly expressions is kind of what makes this artwork unique. So I usually start with the eyes, and eyes can kind of be any shape. They could be round. They might be round with a flat rectangle on the bottom, maybe like an eyelid down there. They could be square. Okay, so you can experiment with some different shapes for eyes. And then you need something inside to show the pupil of the eye. So a little circle. Depending on where you place them inside of your eye is kind of where it's gonna make it look like your heart is looking. Okay, this heart's looking, he's kind of looking at this one. Okay, maybe you want to be silly. Maybe they're looking in opposite directions. Okay, you could add some eyelashes or some eyebrows. So get creative with your faces. You might want to add a little nose. And then work on adding some silly expressions. So maybe your heart has a couple of teeth, maybe at the front, or maybe Maybe you can see the tongue inside. Okay, kind of up to you. So take a look at the drawing handout and get creative with those fun expressions. Once you have your silly hearts done, I just want you to find a Sharpie if you have one and just carefully outline all of your pencil lines because we're going to be adding some water to this and we don't want that marker to smear. It's important that you use the waterproof Sharpie if you have one. If you don't have a Sharpie, just go ahead and leave your drawing as it is with your pencil lines only. Now I'm going to show you some options for coloring your adorable animated hearts. Some of the materials that I'm going to use are colored pencils, markers, watercolor set, a paintbrush, and some water. These are the materials you'll need. If you don't have something, of course, just substitute what you have. Part of what artists do, they have to make things work. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my colored pencils. These are good for detail coloring. So what I'm going to do is color in some of the little details on my adorable hearts, like the eyes. You might want to use this for the mouth or anything else that's going to be kind of a small shape on your picture. And then the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is to use markers and water to add even more color to these. Now that I've colored in some small details with my colored pencils, I'm going to show you how to use the the marker and water technique. So with the marker, what you want to do is use this little chisel tip. This is this angular line right here, not the pointy line, but the angular line. You're going to place that on your paper and make some thick lines around your heart. Just kind of trying to avoid those little details that we just colored in so neatly. And then using my paintbrush and my water, I'm going to let that marker bleed a little bit. That's what we call that. So I'm just gonna use my brush. For some reason, this blue-green marker really works well. And I'm going to spread that just a little bit around my face. And voila. This works great if you don't have watercolors. You can do one of these at a time, or you can do all of your markering first and then go back in with your water and spread it. It's kind of up to you. Whatever kind of process is comfortable for you works for me. What works for one person in art doesn't always work for the other person. You can see my pink marker does not spread nearly as well as that blue-green one. Every color is going to be slightly different. And sometimes you won't notice what it's doing until it's dried out a little bit. Okay, it's also kind of a very subtle technique to make very light colors. So pull out your markers, find a paintbrush and a container of water, and get to work. For the last part of this lesson, I want you to just be creative with your background. I'm going to use watercolors. I'm lucky I have a set of these at my house, and I hope quite a few of you might have these as well. Remember, we like to wet them first. Keeps them from drying out, and then keep them wet as you're painting. So with your background, if you wanted to do it one color, you could, or you could do something something a little different. Maybe you want to do like a raindrop pattern. You could do some swirly patterns. Okay, your goal here is just to get creative. Right now I'm adding blue on top of green, just to kind of see what happens. Kind of the most interesting thing about watercolors is what happens when you blend them together. So you might want to experiment putting some colors on top of each other, blending them around. And I'm actually going to try to kind of paint right up next to the edge of my Sharpie lines. Really fill that background in. I hope you enjoyed this project. I sure did. As you might have noticed, when I was working on my background, I tried to keep my warm colors over here and my cool colors over here. And then I just kind of blended them together a little bit in the middle. So now I just have to go find a safe place for this to dry and a place to hang it when it's ready. Hopefully your adorable animated hearts will cheer up your whole family.